Welcome to another Kickstarter report card. This seemed relatively popular last time, so I'm gonna jump right back in, this time with Sunset. As with the last time, we're just gonna start out with a few of the facts of the campaign, talk a little bit about the game as briefly, and then discuss how the campaign and everything else went after that. Sunset is a plot-driven experience game by the very small developer Tale of Tales, whose campaign ran in the spring and summer of 2014. They were shooting for a goal of $25,000, which is pretty low for game development, but they were funded 270% to a total tune of $67,000. Their estimated delivery time was March of 2015. The actual delivery time was a few months later in May of 2015. It's pretty good though for a small-time dev like this. During that campaign, $15 got you a DRM-free digital copy and a Steam key. Right now, retail is $20 for a Steam code. So real briefly, in Sunset you play an American college student, I think she is, who gets trapped in a South American country due to an ongoing coup. To pass the time and make some money, you take up a job as a house cleaner for an unseen man. Each day you're given a few tasks that he wishes you to complete. You can do them or not. There are other things to do. And you have limited time in the few hours during sunset, which is where the name comes from. The real mechanic here is that you can choose to do almost every task in a warm or cool way, essentially determining your relationship. You can, say, arrange something artistically or practically, would be a hot and cold choice there. And how you do that affects how the owner of the apartment reacts back to you with notes and such. The outside story of the coup and revolution happening outside the apartment does come into play here, and the few main branches in the story are centered around this. But the real plot is the relationship being built between your character, the house cleaner, and the owner of the apartment. Honestly, it's not that bad. It's a good concept. I don't want to talk too much about the game itself here, though, as I'll probably do another video later on that. Of course, we have to talk value here. It's going to be very divisive. You will either very much enjoy your time with it, or very much just absolutely be disappointed and think it's a waste of time. I felt like it was a little long. It dragged on near the end. They could have cut a few weeks out and it would not have suffered, and in fact may have been a little more impactful and worth the time. And the $20 retail price is a little overpriced. Probably watch a little early gameplay. You can see some here, obviously. And if what you're seeing just doesn't interest you, don't bother. If you're interested, you probably will enjoy it, and it'll probably be worth it, probably just on sale. So most likely, if you've heard about Sunset, you're either a backer or you heard a little bit about the controversy that followed after the campaign ended and the game was delivered. Before I get into that, I want to just touch on a couple things about the developer, Tale of Tales. It's run basically by two people that are known for their short experience-based games, not really traditional gameplay. I haven't played them, but they're really, obviously from the name Tale of Tales, trying to deliver a story. I don't look at them as your typical developers. Obviously they are game developers because they make games, but they're not embedded so much into that industry as most game developers are. I suspect they would probably term themselves more as artists than developers, but I honestly can't speak for them. So, how did they fare with Kickstarter? Technically, crowdfunding was a success. They funded and essentially delivered on time. For such a small developer, like I said earlier, a 2-month delay is really nothing, and they delivered what for me was a bug-free experience. In a more realistic sense, it may have been a failure though. Apparently it caused or nearly caused the closing of the studio. Not the campaign itself, but the fact that they put a lot into it, as you can imagine with such a small goal, and it was not the commercial success they were anticipating. I said apparently close the studio because I've seen now that they're starting a new project, a VR just experience, again, back out of traditional gaming and into what they know more. So hopefully they'll be successful with that. After a couple weeks of the game being out and the developers came out and said that this had been a failure, it was a little bit ranty and they said some things that rubbed some people the wrong way. It seemed a lot like someone who had put a lot of time and effort into something, got their hopes up, and then were crushed a little bit. So it was a little understandable, but I can also see people being upset. The problem is, based on the low sales, I suspect the most people that were upset had never played the game. The Kickstarter page doesn't really show any backlash or vitriol. It's possible that they were able to delete comments like that, but from what I see, people were getting the game and saying that they enjoyed it or just not saying anything at all. So really, as far as the controversy is concerned, it just seems a little overblown and a little bit like butthurt on both sides. Why this happens is a little more interesting to me. Obviously, I can't say specifically why it happens, but the reason I talked a little bit about the developer before this was because I think that's where not necessarily the blame lies, but the explanation for what happened with Sunset in Tale of Tales. I think the game they delivered was pretty close to their vision, and that may be the problem. Their lack of experience in developing commercial games for a core audience probably bit them. They probably should have brought on somebody with a bit more experience who would know what sort of things that would sell a little better. I can fully support someone standing behind their vision and just doing that without compromise. But you can't expect everyone to have the same vision as you. And this is where the slight outrage from the developer comes from. Frustrated that people don't see what they see, don't look at it the way they look at it. On the other hand, if you don't understand something, that's no reason to get mad at the people who made it. Just move on. All said, I don't think this game would have ever come out without Kickstarter. In that sense, the campaign would receive high marks. I think that Tale of Tales learned a valuable lesson, maybe a little more harshly than they would have liked, but it seems that they're going to come out the other side of this going back to what they know best and enjoy the most. For me, I got a game that I was not unhappy about having supported and paid for, that I definitely enjoyed my time with. Obviously, it has some flaws, and hopefully I'll be talking about those at some point. All right, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out all the other great content over on the channel.